Dungeons and Dragons Adventurer. Issue 7. So I was hoping to have the next delivery of D&D Adventurer by now, but it dispatched almost a week late, and then it's been over a week and it's still not arrived, so I might have to chase up about it. But anyway, it's the perfect time to get into number 7. And so to start with, we're obviously going to have some more dice. These look like should be some nice glow-in-the-dark dice. And let's just test it out. Wow, that's pretty nice. Yep, they work, that's for sure. Yeah, so this set's actually okay. And you know, at least if I have them in a big pool of dice, easy to find, won't lose them easily. Right, yeah, I like that dice set. So moving on to the magazine, I'm going to step out weapons, puzzles, gnomes, and how much is the gold in your dragon sword really worth? Well, I finally find out what we're going to do with the treasure. Let's take a look. And so welcome to another packed issue with all of this stuff. Got a lot of stuff about details of weapons and armours. It's got puzzles, it's a DM bit. Also going to use puzzles and encounters, which is going to happen in this encounter it sounds like. And we're introducing gnomes because issue 9 is going to have a new forest gnome character. Yeah, glow-in-the-dark dice, so you can continue playing the game even when the lights are out. I don't think you just need glow-in-the-dark dice, although they were cool anyway. So, we've now got our conditions part 2. And this is going to pick up on a lot of the conditions that weren't mentioned before, like paralysed and stunned and petrified. Some notes are that it says like disastrous conditions like petrified can be used to an advantage because they make you resistant to damage and immune to poison or disease, etc. So there might be one of the puzzles involves actually petrifying yourself in a way, maybe? I'm not sure. And also multiple effects don't stack. They can increase the duration, but they won't double it. So if you're stunned for 1 round and 3 rounds, you're just stunned for 3 rounds and that's it. And so a lot of these secondary conditions seem to all cause another condition from conditions 1, or all have a similar sort of effects. First up though, we do have exhaustion, which I wasn't expecting, a condition that has 6 different stages, leading all the way up to death, but each stage gets worse, so like disadvantage on checks and halving your speed and so on, disadvantage on attacks. And each level includes the negative for that level plus all the previous. Spells or effects and so on will either raise or lower the level, and if you go below level 1 it's gone, otherwise you just stick at what level you are. But either a long rest can lower your level by 1, or resurrection from the dead will also lower your level by 1. Next we have grappled, which lowers your speed to 0. It will end if your grappler is incapacitated, or if somehow you've got an effect that moves you 2 apart. Grappling will be covered further in a further issue, it says. So probably the rules about how to initiate it and so on. Paralysed, petrified and stunned. All of these incapacitate you. Means you fail all your strength and dexterity saving throws. Attack rolls against you have advantage. You can't move. And there's some speaking stuff. From best to worst, I guess. So stunned has all of the above, although you can barely speak. Then paralysed, where you can't speak. And now any attacks against you are critical hits if the attacker's within 5 feet. And petrified doesn't have any critical hits against you because you are resistant to all damage and immune to poison and disease. Although you don't lose any poison or disease you already have, it's suspended. But also you stop aging and your weight increases by a factor of 10. Now let's go to coins and currency, because money makes the world go round. Just a bit of background about money. It does say different backgrounds are different starting. So an acolyte has 15 gold to start with, hermit only has 5. Didn't notice that. But then again, all the characters are pre-generated and you all started with 15 anyway, I think. And then other stuff, you've got gems, jewellery, paintings, they sell for a normal amount. But stuff like armour and weapons, because even new armour weapons only sell for half the amount, so used stuff will probably sell for less. It's up to the DM to decide. And magic items, just completely tricky to shift. Not many more details on where I'm going to spend the money, although as I say, you might think it's possible to go from 1 to 20 without needing to spend a single penny. Well, so far I've gone from level 1 to level 2 and not spent a single penny. So surely that's correct. Although here we start to introduce living costs, basically. So your lifestyle between adventurers, and then food, drink, lodging and services. All stuff that I've never considered before. And if they give me some actual rules for it, like the lifestyle rules and whatever else I use it. But it's just going, oh, you might need to take coaches between towns or send messengers, or, you know, night in will cost you that, and chunk of meat and a bottle of wine. Maybe he will have the wine, maybe he won't. Hopefully they'll just give you like a standard table to use. And your denominations as normal. penny, 10p, 50p, pound, and a £10 coin. Puzzling. Now we move on to puzzling. So, all the puzzles, this just talks about stuff you can do. Riddles, that's a staple of adventures, because they're easy to do and it's easy to find. Just have a quick look on the internet, there's loads about. And it's just as simple as speak the answer and the magic happens. Ooh. And then there's some other like more practical puzzles like moving boxes to make a floating bridge, etc. So stuff you might do in like a team building exercise in the real world fits nice as a D&D puzzle, it turns out. Or possibly just take a look at Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider or something like that. So I forgot this was a DM section, so heroes, I need to know this. But the secret to a satisfying puzzle is to make the adventurers feel smart. It does say as well, always plan for the worst, because even the most obvious puzzle, something might go wrong, they might suspect it's a trap, it might not be successful. People just make mistakes sometimes, so you need to plan for them to fail, no matter how easy you think the puzzle is. And some classic puzzles where your tilted floor, it's got all your letters and symbols, you just have to match up something you've seen earlier in your adventure. Mirrored room, where the mirror looks slightly off, so you have to move your room to match it. And empty-handed statue, where you need to figure out what items put in his hand to open the door, or open the chest, or unlock the wall, or whatever. Now, we get actions and bonus actions in combat. So bonus actions was something that I've been waiting for. So hopefully this will give me a list of what they're going to be, or something similar. So actually, it's just a bit of different thought, but let's go through all normal actions. So we knew about attacking, casting spell, dash, disengage. Dodge is a new one they've introduced. Attack rolls against you with disadvantage if you can see the attacker, and any dexterity saving throws have advantage, unless you're incapacitated or your speed drops to 0. Stuff we've already discussed in the conditions. Not that page, anyway. In the conditions. Help renew, it's just a bit more clarified about some other stuff. So you can help allies who are attacking creatures to give them advantage if they attack before you. Hide renew. Ready's a new one, which looks to be you ready an action you're not ready for, and before your next turn you can use it as a reaction. Like if you know an enemy's coming, ready an attack, and then use the attack as a reaction when they open the door or walk around the corner. Searching's also new. You might make wisdom checks, intelligence checks. I feel like that just goes with standard searching, but now it's a combat action as well. And use an object if it states as an action, such as drinking a potion. And some monsters get multi-attack as an action, which is just they can do several attacks instead of just one. Then it will list it in the stat block. And the bonus actions, I do a bit of a list, but actually it just says class features, spells, and other abilities will let you have quick special actions called bonus actions, like the second wind or a cleric's spell, and usually it's listed under features and traits. So there's no like definitive list of bonus actions like I thought there might be. It's just going to be as and when they come up. It will just say, oh, this is a bonus action. Although 2 weapon fighting is mentioned as a bonus action. Attack twice by using your bonus action for your second weapon, which is described in more detail in this issue. Let's move on to weapons. So part 1, this just gives you a bit of talk about weapons. You can have melee or ranged. They can have different types of damage, such as bludgeoning or piercing or slashing. Main thing, some weapons can be melee or ranged, because some, like daggers, can also be thrown, and some weapons can do multiple forms of damage, so you have to state which one you're using because monsters may be resistant or immune. Welcome to a really good weapons section. So I've got this large weapons table here. Pretty much I think that's every sort of weapon you'd find in the game. Other weapons might be like, oh, just use it as one of these. So there's a trident. If you found like, I don't know, a farmer's like pitchfork, you might use it as a trident instead, because I can't see pitchfork, even though pitchfork would probably class as a simple weapon. But or pitchfork might be like used as a club, etc. So stuff about weapon proficiencies, we know if you're proficient with a weapon you get to add your bonus. Some weapons are simple and some are martial, so most people can use simple, whereas you need to be, it'll be mostly trained fighters who can use martial. If you're just proficient in martial weapons, you're proficient in all martial weapons. Whereas if you're proficient in a specific martial weapon, like, say, a merman might be a trident, they wouldn't get their bonus for using the rapier or a halberd, etc. Unarmed strike are back now. They were removed from the character sheets when we went from the trial to the actual version. Now we've got them back. It's bludgeon damage equal to 1 plus the character's strength modifier. There's lots of stuff mentioned here. All the weapon weights as well. Again, we covered weights, issue 2, I think, of a statue, but nothing's come up yet since, as far as I know. So I'm ignoring the weight for now, but this is all the details we need. And costs are here, so you can buy them if we ever found a shop. There must be a shop in Vandalin, but I've not really paid attention to seeing what mentioned yet. And we've got all the details for weapons over here. Most of the stuff to note, that ammunition, you can recover half of whatever you spend if you search the battlefield for a minute after combat. Didn't think I knew that. Finesse weapons mean you can use strength or dex. So, if I remember right, melee weapons all use strength as the modifier, whereas ranged weapons all use dexterity. Finesse weapons use either. So, darts are like finesse thrown. So, when you're throwing it, it'd normally be dex, but you could throw it with a strength modifier. Or a rapier is a finesse weapon. So, normally that has strength, but you could use it with dex if you're like a fast, swishy swordsman. Heavy and light weapons, etc. Loading weapons can't be used twice. Range is finally mentioned. Again, I think this was covered in the trial issue, not the normal issue, where the first number of range is your normal range, and the second number is your long range, and at long range you have disadvantage. And you can't attack beyond the long range. Reach weapons go an extra 5 feet. Throwing weapons can be thrown. Two-handed, obviously not to carry. You can carry it in one hand, but need 2 hands to be wielded. And versatile weapons can be wielded even using 1 or 2. If you do a 2-handed weapon, they make the number listed as damage. Such as the battle axe, which is 1 dice 8. It's versatile, so if you wield it with 2 hands, you do 1d10. A bit more stuff then. We have improvised weapons, which is similar to what I mentioned earlier. The DM can roll some improvised weapons, such as a frying pan. If you think it's similar to an actual weapon, it'll be treated as such. So a broken table leg could be a club. Otherwise, improvised weapons just deal 1d4 damage. Or if you use a ranged weapon to strike a melee attack, such as using the butt of a crossbow to hit someone in the face, I guess. Or throwing a weapon that doesn't have the throwing property, such as the mace or longsword. Again, it's just 1d4 damage. DM decides the type of damage, and the range is 20 feet short, 60 feet long. Also, 2-weapon fighting, any character can do it, as long as you've got 2 weapons that are one-handed and light. Then your bonus action is a second weapon attack with your other hand. It's less powerful though, so you don't get to add your ability modifiers unless it's negative, then you do take it off. But then I think some people might have abilities that ignore that, so they get the full bonus for both. Have I seen that maybe? Not sure. And also the second weapon can just be thrown, if it's got the thrown property, like a dagger. The armour section is next, and that comes in 3 stages, light, medium and heavy. There'll be more over the thing. But armour proficiency, if you're proficient, it's fine. If you're not in the type you're wearing, you have disadvantage on ability checks, saving throws, strength or dex attack results, and you can't cast spell, so that stops you just tanking up your wizard in armour for disadvantage rolls. Also, top tip, shields add a further +2, most people have them. You carry them in one hand and can't have 2 shields at once. So you can't double shield and just completely defend. That's upsetting. Heavy armours could also interfere with stuff if you don't have the strength requirements. Your speed's reduced by 10. And some say disadvantage in stealth, so disadvantage on dexterity checks for stealth. The armour, like the weapons, has got its own little table. Much smaller, because there's less variety of armour. Although there's more than the classic leather, chain and plate I was used to. Cost before, weight before, we'll cover those I think. Armour class, you get dex modifier for lighter armours. Either a full 1 or a maximum of 2. And then obviously, strength to avoid losing speed, disadvantage on stealth, etc. And just describes your types up there. And time to get into and out of it. But now, we're done with that. Let's move on to characters, begin with gnomes, ready for 2 issues time. And there's 3 different types of gnomes. Again, we're just going to start the background, aren't we? But it's going to be rock gnomes, forest gnomes, and subterranean deep gnomes. Knowing that the forest gnomes what we're going to pay most attention to. Gnomes are usually about 3 feet tall. They tend to favour earthly tones in their attire, but bright sparks. They're tinkerers. Don't be surprised to see any stain or scorch marks from a recent experiment. Briefly, mostly just says gnomes mostly stay out of stuff, really. They were created 25,000 years ago in the past by the deity Gold, glitter gold. And he breathed life into gems, and different gems create different types of gnomes. It says here, most recently, gnomes or rock gnomes have begun to question lack of participation, and the young generation have a shift towards striking out. I'm sure it said we get a forest gnome, though, who are the shyest, smallest, and most secretive. And I'll just wait and see what gnome turns up, I reckon, then. Anyway, the best part of the issue, the encounter. Again, This is for the Dungeon Masters only. If you are a player, please use the chapters to skip ahead if you plan on playing it. If you're a DM, watch on to reveal. As we move on to, obviously this is going to have puzzles. I can already see there's a puzzle sort of thing there. And the DM tip is actually bring a puzzle box to life. Sketch is 6 size players to look at, or even make a physical box. I should have read the whole tip. I thought it was saying bring a box, and it said sketch, and it did say bring a box. But so Greywind's Conundrum, and it's for 2nd level characters. So again, we can use our 2nd level character sheets. And actually, well, there's 2 things. But firstly, this adventure is literally just a puzzle box. To complete the encounter, the adventurers must figure out how to open the box to use it safely. And that's all you're doing, you're hired to open it. It's riddled devious traps though, so you could take damage, potentially fatal. But this is Lynn Greywind, owner and manager of a trading post. Does that mean I can finally find a place to spend my money? Let's find out. So the encounter begins, as we mentioned, in the Lion Shield Coaster, a modest trading post in Phandalin. See Daylight Robbery in D&D Adventure number 4. I don't remember seeing anything about that, but I did pull up D&D Adventure number 4, and what do we have here? Lynn Greywind. And it says, keeps the supply of armour weapons in the back room, which are for sale. So I did know about stuff being for sale. But then you also look, the stuff for sale is mentioned in the Sage Advice. See Weapons Part 1 and Part 2 in Armour. So I wouldn't have been able to buy them until this issue anyway. At least not without having to look them up online. Anyway, yada yada. She's had a puzzle box. If you can open it for her before tonight, you'll get a magic shield and a half price deal. And the crux of the box is you've got 6 puzzles. They've got to be solved in a certain order. And each puzzle takes a DC 12 dexterity sleight of hand check to solve. Each time you fail a check, a trap's going to go off depending on the face you're doing. And if you do it in the wrong order, all the puzzles reset, and then you've got these flying swords will come out to attack you. And it just details here all of the faces. So it's got a lot of information here about what's on the face, like a dragon or 3 wombats or 5 tarantulas or so on. Obviously it's 1 to 6, so actually it's like the face of a dice, so you could probably use a dice as a substitute maybe. But anyway, when you solve a puzzle, it goes a certain colour, which helps to do the puzzle, and it's got all the traps that will happen if you fail, like a fire trap or a gas trap or a spell trap, etc. And details of the sword. Shield +1 also explains what normal shield is as well. And blind sight, which I feel like we've had mentioned before. And finally, the Clockwork Defender, who is one of the traps released by the box. A thing to note here, the electrified bite action it's got is a grapple stuff. So if it successfully bit it, obviously it holds onto it, which counts as grappling. And it gives you a escape DC of 13, which isn't mentioned yet. They said they'll talk about grappling later. So I'm assuming each turn you can try and escape the grapple by going for the escape DC. Or hopefully they'll mention it next issue, so it's not too much of a problem. Or you'll just ignore the grapple, who knows. Anyway, yeah, issue 7 done and dusted, issue 8 to come. And I'm quite liking these dice. I didn't even notice it before, but they've actually got the actual D&D symbol on the top. And I feel like they're metal dice. They might not. I'll find out anyway. But so, coming up, there'll be more videos, obviously. So if we're following the issue, there'll be links over there popping up. If we're following the series, there'll be links over there popping up. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Hope to catch you soon.